HIV and AIDS, Chapter 4.3. By the end of this section, you should be able to describe the structures and functions of the lymphatic systems, identify the white blood cells as the cells that are primarily attacked by HIV, and explain how HIV affects the immune system. Show local, national, and global distribution of HIV and AIDS. Explain the impacts of HIV and AIDS in Ethiopian society. Demonstrate methods of giving care and support to people living with HIV and AIDS, and ways of overcoming discrimination. The sexually transmitted diseases, STDs, that you looked at in the last section have been known for a very long time, although we only have discovered the details of what causes them and how to treat them effectively in the last century. However, the final STD that you're about to study has only been known about for about 25 years. Yet, in spite of this, it already affects millions of people around the world, and it's still a fatal disease for almost everyone who becomes infected. This new disease is HIV AIDS, and it raises some serious issues in Ethiopia, as it does around the world. So, just recapping that, it's only been known for about 25 years, affects millions of people around the world, and actually 30,000 people die of AIDS every year in Ethiopia. And well over 1 million people are affected with the virus. So HIV itself, it stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus, and AIDS stands for the Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome. Now, it's very important that you understand the differences between these two. HIV itself is the virus, and AIDS is the immune deficiency syndrome that you get because of the virus. Here's a video that's going to explain this all in a lot more detail for you. Around 35 million people worldwide were living with HIV at the end of 2013. Globally, around 6,300 people are being infected every single day, many of them between the ages of 15 and 24 years. Think about it this way: 4 people are affected every single minute. Around 1.5 million people die of AIDS every single year. So this is a very, very serious issue. In Ethiopia, the AIDS is actually the leading cause of death for people aged 15 to 49, and it's had enormous implications for the economy of the region. And this is because many of the working population are affected by the disease. In 2010, almost 28,000 people in Ethiopia died of AIDS. And in the same year, it was recorded that about 800,000 children were orphans because their parents had died because of the virus. About 1 million people in Ethiopia are currently living with HIV and AIDS. But Ethiopia is not alone in the problems. As you can see, people are affected right around the world. Here's a video that will talk about AIDS in Africa and 10 of the countries with the highest HIV and AIDS rates. Here's another video that talks about the huge impact of HIV and AIDS in Africa. Alright, let's go into what HIV actually is in a lot of more detail now. Okay, so your immune system is based in your lymph system, and this spreads throughout your body. And your capillary walls, they are permeable to everything in your blood apart from the red blood cells that carry the oxygen around, as well as large plasma proteins. So all your blood flows through your capillaries from the arterial system, and it's under pressure, so fluid is squeezed out of your vessels. And the fluid fills spaces in between your cells and your body. Okay? And it is through this fluid that all the diffusion between blood and your cells takes place. So, most of this fluid is eventually returned back to your blood. Some of it moves back to your capillaries as they go near your veins, but a lot of it drains into a series of ending tubes that is part of the lymph system. And this here is the lymph system. Okay? Once the tubes, the fluid is known as the lymph fluid. And the lymph vessels join and get larger and is moved by the squeezing effect of muscle movements. And the system has a series of valves like those found in your valves to prevent the backflow of liquid. And it's finally returned to your blood around the neck area. And this is where the lymph vessels join in large veins. Along your lymph vessels, you find your lymph glands, the white blood cells known as lymphocytes. Okay? And these lymphocytes gather in the glands and produce antibodies against invading pathogens. The antibodies carried in the blood, and the lymph glands also filter out bacteria and other microbes that get ingested by phagocytes. Enlarged lymph glands, so swollen glands, are a sign that your body is fighting off an invading pathogen. And you can see here in this figure 4.33, why doctors often examine the neck, the armpits, and also the groin to see if those glands are enlarged. Okay, so HIV, the virus, actually attacks this system. How does it do it? Well, the human immune system, remember we spoke about the fact that it's made up of those white blood cells that protect the body from infection. Okay, normally when the virus enters the body, the cells that make up the immune system begin to work at once. So there's two main types of these cells. It's really important that you know these two types. The T cells, which bind to the antigens, and we've been through these in a previous chapter, and they will destroy them. And then you've got the B cells. These are the ones which make antibodies which bind to the microbe and destroy it. So, it can take some time for your body to produce enough of these T and B cells. These are the white blood cells, the lymphocytes, with the right receptors to overcome a pathogen. And while the immune system is producing our defenses, we start feeling a bit ill because of the disease. So, just recapping some of these things. Lymph, remember that was the system, and the lymph itself is the fluid containing white blood cells which flows through the lymphatic system. Lymphocytes, on the other hand, are the white blood cells which form antibodies against microbes. Alright, HIV, how it affects this system, well, what it does is it attacks the T cells of your immune system. Basically, it gets inside of them so they don't work anymore. And you need both types of cells for your immune system to work properly. So as more and more T cells are invaded by the virus, your immune system gets less and less effective. And that's why people with HIV and AIDS get so many other infections. HIV attacks T cells and gets inside them so they no longer work. Alright? Remember, these T cells are the ones that bind to the antigens and destroy them. But if you've got the HIV virus, it's going to make these T cells ineffective. Okay? What are the T cells? They are the ones that the white blood cells that recognize and attach to a cell carrying a foreign antigen. Remember, that's the marker that's on it, and it will destroy it. Whereas B cells, they recognize and attach to a foreign antigen, reproducing and forming many identical copies of themselves which secrete antibodies to destroy the antigen. So these will attach, these will secrete antibodies and kind of attack from a distance. So there are some drugs that can be used to slow down the progress of HIV and AIDS, but sadly there is no cure or vaccine like a lot of these other ones, and that means that it's a really big problem. The antiviral drugs, they can help. They can help by slowing things down, and the person with HIV can remain healthy, but it's something that they're going to have to keep taking that medication throughout their whole life. So how can someone stay healthy? Well, they've got to follow the guidelines of medication that they are prescribed. It's really important. That helps to reduce the impact of HIV. Stay in close touch with a doctor. That's really, really important. Eat a balanced and nutritious diet, so a variety of fruits and vegetables and proteins, and drinking also plenty of water as well. Exercise and just keeping fit, so maintaining healthy that way too. And also getting support from friends and family. So there's a lot of support out there, and it's up to you, if you do have it, to actually go out and actively seek that help. Preventing it. So a bit like the STDs, there's a few methods that will help to control the spread of HIV. Faithfulness. If you have a partner, you stick with that partner and you don't have sex with others. Abstinence. If you refrain from having sex, then you are unlikely to spread the HIV. And of course, if you are going to have a sex, use a condom. Here is a video a bit about the stigma and ignorance about HIV in South Africa. Let's talk a little bit about that stigma and discrimination. One of the biggest problems with HIV and AIDS is this stigma that has been attached to the condition. People are afraid of this discrimination, and if it's known that someone's got HIV, or if they have AIDS, they're afraid that they're not going to get a job, or they might lose their job, or people might not want to even serve them in shops. So people will not even sometimes be tested because they are afraid. Okay, there's a lot of fear around this. Currently, a lot of people are working very hard to remove the stigma associated with HIV and AIDS. So with lots of help and support, people living with HIV and AIDS can remain healthy for a long time still. They need to eat as well as possible, keep up their strength, and allow their immune system to deal with the virus as long as possible. The importance here is education. So with people, if they're given the right support and they understand how to avoid passing on the infection, they can then are less likely to be able to spread it on to others. And in the future, there's going to be more of those antiretroviral drugs which will be made available, so people can still remain healthier for longer. So there's a lot of care and support available for people that may have HIV and AIDS. Here's a little bit of a short video that goes into a bit of a detail about how to support people living with HIV and AIDS. In this next activity, activity 4.8, you're going to plan a campaign to help educate people on the threat of HIV and AIDS. So on page 164, there's also another activity here on page 164 about assertiveness training. And here's a little video that that goes into that in a little bit more detail. And